Alright guys, welcome back. As you can guess, I have another generator. Unlike the other ones, this one actually runs. And I got it for a price of a non-running generator, so I had to scoop it up. With that said, there are still some issues with it. So I'll go through those with you right now pretty quickly. So I guess first issue, the wires aren't really protected too well. A pretty minor issue, so we can clean that up. It's also missing a grip. Again, minor issue. I did run the generator when I went to go pick it up, and I took a quick video of that, so let me show you that now. So I don't know if you can tell, but in the video, you can kind of see the engine shaking a few times, quite a bit, on the engine mounts, and that's caused by the generator surging and not running right. With that said, it is running. Surging is usually caused by a dirty carburetor. So of course I'm going to take this guy apart and clean it out. The other thing, a few other things can cause surging. Not enough fuel, a governor that is out of adjustment, but I'm not going to touch the governor except for last resort. Could also be bad fuel. And one thing I did notice over here is a problem, actually two problems. So this filter here actually, has no clamps. It's also a paper filter, which usually doesn't work too well on gravity-fed systems like this. It's a little too restrictive and might not allow enough fuel to get through. Also, the second problem is it has two fuel filters, and this one is also not the correct filter. I believe this is for a system that has a fuel pump, as well as this one. So you get two filters that are meant to have more pressure behind it to get the fuel through. And on a gravity-based system, it's gonna restrict the fuel. So that could be causing the surge. Also the clamps that are here are pretty rusty. They might just break off when I go to take this apart. So I'm probably going to start by taking off, this filter and putting on a red filter, which is meant for the gravity-fed systems. It just has a wire mesh in it. It's not as fine as a filter, but for this type of system, that's really what you need to use. So I'll do that. I'll drain out the gas while I have everything disconnected, hook it all back up, service the carburetor, and then I'm just going to run it and see how we're making out. If it runs properly, then I will do an oil change. I might also put sand that down a bit and put some black paint on it. I probably don't want to sand it too much because it does have like an epoxy coating on it, but obviously it's worn off in a few spots. So I might just put a light coating of paint on it just to try to slow that rust down. And of course test it with a load. And if everything's good, then I'll just finish it up and sell it. Okay, so I did just drain the gas out. I also, there was a fuel filter here, so I moved the fuel valve down to that location. And next I'm gonna replace this white filter for the proper red one. Okay, good. I'm gonna put some fresh fuel in it and then go around to the other side and take care of cleaning the carb. Alright, I think we got another problem. The bowl is overflowing, which is a float problem probably, or a needle, or a seat. So, I mean, regardless, we're taking this apart to clean it, but I'll just have to pay special attention to that. He did mention that when it runs, it's okay, because it burns more fuel than it leaks. But once you shut the engine off, if you leave the fuel on, it eventually does fill up and start leaking. Anyway, continue taking this thing apart. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the fuel line, remove the linkage, and this should be, oh, actually it's not free to pull out. You need to use a Torx socket bit to pull these studs out, and then the carburetor will come off. That on the bottom, not a lot of water, but that was in the fuel line. There might be more inside the carb. A lot of water in there. All right, I'm just gonna get a different tool to pop that out. And I believe this pin here just snaps into this plastic, so you do have to be somewhat careful. It is plastic. It is kind of old, so it could be brittle. There we go. All right, so it's a metal needle. It actually looks pretty good. So the problem is most likely the seat. It's usually a rubber seat. Oh yeah, that's a mess. Yeah, so let me just try cleaning that up on the ultrasonic. Maybe it'll come back. Otherwise, I might have to order a seat. I believe this piece also comes out. And this could be the main jet down here, so I'm going to try to get that out. Okay, so a couple things here. This is not a jet. The jet actually there is a track down here, and there's supposed to be a spring that screw pushes on, which then keeps tension on the jet, which is inserted in here, the main jet. That spring isn't here, and the jet is stuck in there. If I could get the jet out, then this emulsion tube would pull out, and I could clean the whole thing, but it's putting up a fight, so I'm not going to force it right now. It may not, it's obviously in there pretty good without the spring, and I don't necessarily want to break that up if I don't have to. So what I'm going to do is just make sure the jet is clear before putting it in the ultrasonic. And I wish I could get this out to make sure it's clean inside, but the bowl actually is pretty clean inside. So I'm not overly concerned about what's inside of here. I think it's probably okay. The seat obviously is a mess. But I'll just make sure these holes are clear. That one's fine. Yeah, main jet is fine too. I don't feel any obstruction in there. Yep, so I'm just going to wash it like this. I think we'll be okay, and then we'll work on that seat afterwards. It's looking pretty good. Not great, but a lot better. Yeah, this is not salvageable. I can actually see the rubber's kind of broken up down there, so There was a lot of buildup, scaly buildup, but the rubber that's left really is not of any good quality. So I'll take a quick look, see if I have anything that might fit in there, but I don't think I have anything this size. But let me take a look. Okay, so I'm gonna have to order some parts for this. I do not have a seat available, and I'm also gonna get a new main jet, or maybe just a spring if they sell that separately, and that should get this carburetor back in good shape. So this is going to be continued, guys. Thanks. Okay, quick update. For you, it's been a few seconds. For me, it's been a week. The parts I ordered, the spring is on back order, which is holding up the entire order. So I cannot reassemble the carburetor at this time, but I am going to put a little bit of paint on this to, well, make it look good and also kind of slow down the rust a bit. So, I want to start by cleaning off the loose rust. I don't want to get too aggressive. There is some sort of a coating on here. I don't know if that's just purely, like a weather seal, or if it's actually, needs to be over the plates. But regardless, I've just been brushing it lightly with this, I think it's a brass brush, getting off the dust and the loose material. I'm almost at the point where I'm ready to tape it off and apply a little bit of paint. So I'm going to spend a few more minutes doing this, and then I will turn you back on and for the painting process, and get this thing looking nice. One more thing worth noting, this didn't look right to me, and on closer examination it's actually turned at about a 45-degree angle. This needs to go back that way, and actually it looks like this is also turned, as well as the bottom and the top are turned. I'll show you what the other side looks like. It's supposed to look more like that. That one's even a little bit off. So I'm gonna spend a little time, see if I can straighten out the other side a bit, and then I'll proceed with the painting. Okay, so there's a nut under here. I loosened it up. This is loose now. So with any luck, I can slide this back over. There's a tab right there. And this tab is supposed to keep it, there's a tab on each side. It's supposed to keep it kind of locked on this cross member here. So let me see if I can snap it in place. Okay, that's a lot better. So I'm just going to tighten it back up, and we should be good to go. Okay, I spared you the boredom of watching me paint, but anyway, it's still drying, but it's pretty much done. So I'm just going to remove all the masking and let it finish drying, and I will show you what it looks like when it's dry. All dry. Okay, so here I am. It's 3 weeks later. I just stuck this on a shelf. Haven't looked at it since. Been thinking about it though every day. One of the parts was back ordered, so I had to wait quite a while. And parts finally arrived today. So anyway, you know, before I put the new seat in, I just want to make sure that this seat is completely cleaned out, and there's still a little bit of gunk, especially at the bottom. You know, I really want to make sure that that's not the case, or else it's never going to seal properly. And there's some stuff here on the side. I can't quite tell what that is. It might actually be damaged plastic, but that's much higher up and the seat won't be touching that area. So I'm just going to scrape a little bit here at the bottom. See if I can get any more debris out. All right, let's try this again very carefully. I'm going to use this screw to lightly place it where it belongs. Otherwise, if I just drop it in there, I don't know which side is going to land up, and I want to make sure the rib side is down. Okay, and then with the flat side of the screw, you push it down. This screw is actually a little too big, so let me find something else to push that down with. Okay, so that screw should have been able to push it down. The problem is there's some sort of imperfection in the plastic here. Ideally, you'd want to use something that's just as, you know, the same diameter as the seat and just push it in. In this case, I have to use something a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to take extra care not to push one side in too far, too fast. All right, that's it. Okay, so next I think we'll do the spring and the bowl drain, or whatever you want to call this. Unfortunately, when you put it on the generator, it's completely inaccessible, so I call it useless, but maybe it's okay on another machine that they use the same engine, but you know, the Powermate generator that I'm working on now, this is completely useless. Okay. And then, here it is. Oops. Help if I put the pin in first. Yeah, I think it's in. I didn't hear a definitive click, but I really don't like the idea of this being held in by this little plastic on either side. You know, it seems like it would be so easy for it to just pop out, but that's the way they made it. Anyway, it's in, so now I'll test it. So when I turn it upside down, that'll close the float, and I should not be able to blow through it. Perfect. Then this way, I should be able to blow through it. Yep. Upside down. Yeah, nothing. If you can hear any air, then it's gonna leak, and I hear nothing. So that's perfect. Okay, now for this. I believe it's made to only go on one way, and they got these little tabs here to help you. All right, so I could go on that way. I guess technically it could go on this way too, except I can see the outline of that on this side, so I know for sure that it goes like that. Unless someone else put it in wrong before me. Okay. And this has the same tabs here. So, seems like it should go that way, except, yeah. And these holes line up with those holes, that goes in there. Little hole, little hole. And that is it. Hope I'm not forgetting anything, but I think that's it. It should be okay. It's still sealed from there to there. There's also a little crack there, but I think it'll be okay if I'm careful putting it on. Otherwise, I can cut a new gasket for it if it starts running lean. But that is it. This is back together, so let me put it back on the engine and see if it runs. So one thing I'm noticing here on the governor, when the engine's off, the tension should be to pull the throttle open. So the governor is what wants to close it, the more the engine speeds up. When the engine slows down, the throttle spring takes over to open the throttle up. Should be full open right now, but it's not. Governor could be out of adjustment. Interesting. Never noticed that before. This side out, when below 32, it has this shield here. So it's actually not a shield at all. It's a blockage. So the air intake, when you turn it around, is right next to the muffler. So it helps keep the air going in warm. And in warm weather, face this side out. So it's taking the hot air outside. If you left it this way, it'd be taking the hot air from the muffler, which is 600 degrees, and going back into the engine and getting even hotter. So that's interesting. Okay, moment of truth on this Powermate. So I think it'll start okay. I'm not sure what it's going to be like, but you know, just a quick word. This generator does not have an AVR, which means the faster the engine spins, the higher the voltage. Originally, I didn't like that idea. You know, the idea of AVR seems much better. It keeps the voltage constant. But you know, I've seen ones malfunction where they just put out, you know, 170 volts, and the engine speed's fine. And you know, it seems like the governor system is pretty reliable, as long as you don't have a stuck throttle plate. And you know, I don't know. For what it's worth, I actually think the non-AVR ones are better. You just got to check the engine speed, and if it sounds off, you know, obviously don't run it. But that seems to be a lot less common than AVRs malfunctioning. So anyway, I'm going to start it up, do a quick load test, 3,000 watts. I'm going to check the voltage and the hertz, and probably need to adjust the engine speed a little and potentially the governor. So let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, so pretty good. The governor was oscillating, you know, when I held it with my hand and then let go, it ran fine. So I might adjust the governor. I think what it is right now the throttle spring is supposed to be all the way open. And the governor's out of adjustment, so it's not quite open all the way. So then when the governor goes to close it a little, it's actually closing it a lot. And then it's overcompensating by opening it again. So I'm gonna let it sit for a minute. I'll start it up again and see if it does the same thing. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is back the throttle off, because when I adjust the governor, it potentially could speed the engine up even more, and it's already too fast. So I'd rather have it running too slow, and then I can bring the throttle back up. So the idea is loosen this bolt at that pivot point right there. Straighten these two pieces out a little bit so that this is fully fully opening the butterfly. So the governor stops pulling right there. But if I push, you see it actually needs to go open a little bit more to open the butterfly fully. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, I'm going to keep my hand close to the off switch. The smallest adjustment in the governor can really have catastrophic consequences. I did loosen up the throttle spring, so hopefully that'll help. So here goes. Too fast. Okay, so I will, ooh. There is a little oil leaking out. I'll have to check the oil level. That doesn't seem very good. Anyway, the issue was the governor has a plate that comes out, and that connects to this plate, and the angle was off. So I had to hold the throttle open and turn this plate in the same direction on the bottom to match all the way, and then tightened it up. And that was it. So you can see a little mistake like that can destroy an engine. So anyway, not sure what's going on with that. That could be a bigger issue, but let me research that and turn you off for now. Okay, so just let it run for 15 minutes. There's been no additional oil coming out of that governor shaft. I'm not sure what that was about, but I think we're okay. I'm going to look up just to see if there is an oil seal on that. A lot of times they don't, especially when it's on the top of the engine and it's just a cheap little 11 horsepower engine, you know. But I'll see what they have and I guess go from there, but I'm not too concerned about it. It seems okay. So I think we're good. Thanks for watching.